feel like my best ideas when I'm making music come from usually from like, you know, seeing someone perform. Like I might go and see a show or something, and like I'll come back from the show and I'll have all these ideas or whatever. Also, you know, now that I live in New York, it's just like a different environment. So I guess the music that I'm making is changing as well, because I'm kind of adapting to the environment that I'm in. I guess I've kind of moved away from the house and the kind of deep house stuff that I was making a couple of years ago. I just feel like it was a natural progression anyway to kind of move away from that and kind of go a bit more electronic. But living in New York has definitely influenced that vibe as well. I think New York is musically different from London, because London, you know, at the moment, grime is like the biggest thing. You know, you've still got, you know, the techno scene happening, you've got a load of underground parties, you know, everything seems very raw at the moment in London, and I kind of like that. In New York, I've noticed that, you know, like people have moved away from the whole EDM kind of craze, and everyone's gravitating more towards hip-hop again. And hip-hop seems to be the main thing, like not only in New York but all over the US. And there's a lot of similarities to you know, new US hip-hop and grime as well, you know, in terms of the beats and whatever. Obviously they're talking about completely different things, but yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities musically, and there's a lot of differences. It's kind of hard to explain right now, but I also haven't been there for like 4 months, which is weird, because I feel a little bit out of touch sometimes, because, you know, like I still try and keep up on like what's going on or whatever, but when you're not living in London, you kind of like, you really feel it when you're not there, because you're like, oh, what's going on? Like, who's killing it? Who's, you know, I can't just, you know, walk out my house and drive 20 minutes to like, you know, East London and like, you know, see whoever perform. Like, it just doesn't, that can't do that anymore. So when I was living in London, I was on the BBC for about 6 years, and it was a cool period in my life, because it's something that I never thought that I would do, especially because I'd never spoken on the microphone before. Before that, I would like not touch a microphone. But, you know, I got thrown into the deep end and I was asked to do a show and didn't really know what I was doing, but it actually turned out to be, you know, great for me, because it kind of brought out my confidence, you know, not only as a presenter, but like as a DJ as well, just being able to go to a gig and pick up a mic. And you know, I'm glad I did it. I did it for like 6 years. I got to explore like so many different types of music that I probably never would have even, you know, listen to. I got to, you know, support all that stuff on my show. And then, you know, once I left the BBC, few years later, here we are, and I'm, you know, I'm living in New York now, and I'm kind of in a different era and a different space in my life, and I'm, you know, got a lot more time to think about like the music that I want to make. And had I not done radio, I wouldn't have known if I, you know, wanted to make music or not. And that was one of the things that I did after I finished my radio show. I was like, right, I want to make music, and now I've got time to do that. So now that I'm living in New York, I have a lot more time for myself and a lot more time to like kind of work on music and, you know, not have any distractions. And yeah, it's cool. I got onto the BBC just simply by being asked. You know, I didn't apply to, you know, be a radio presenter or anything. I didn't, you know, interview or anything like that. I was kind of known in the scene as, you know, a hip-hop DJ or DJ, and they asked me to come in and do a couple of pilots. And, you know, when the BBC asks you to do a few pilots for their radio station. Why, you know, you're gonna say no? Like, you know, I went and I did it, and you know, they offered me the show, and I kind of was really just thrown into the deep end. There was no, you know, training. There was no like 6 months of learning how to become a presenter. It was literally like, okay, this is your show, this is your first show, and they turned the mic up, and I was like, okay, I'm gotta present something now. Like I've got, you know. So, but it was great because I had a good team behind me. That's one thing that the BBC do so well, is they, you know, put the right production team behind the presenter, and that's really what helps to make the shows what they are.